Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. Let's talk about this the way it actually happens in real life. No sanitized corporate press release language. No carefully scripted anchor voice reading off a teleprompter. Imagine we're just sitting here together, microphones open, coffee getting cold on the side table, because this Chris Bassitt story hits completely differently than your typical free agency rumor, especially if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan who's still nursing the emotional wounds from that World Series loss. I'll be brutally honest with you right from the start. When I first saw this rumor floating around social media and Baseball Insider reports, I felt genuine discomfort. Not immediate anger or outrage, but deep discomfort. Because this isn't just any random name being thrown around in trade speculation. This isn't some middle-of-the-road rotation guy who had a forgettable season. This is Chris Bassitt. The same player who just 3 months ago was literally crying after the World Series ended, emotionally telling reporters and teammates that this Blue Jays group was his favorite team he's ever played with in his entire professional career. Those weren't empty words in a throwaway press conference. That was real emotion from a veteran who's been around the block. And now you look at the current situation and the reported interest, and it's the Baltimore Orioles. American League East. Direct division rival. The team the Blue Jays have to go through just to make the playoffs. And that's exactly where Blue Jays fans collectively freeze in their tracks. Because the first natural human reaction is purely emotional. How can this possibly be happening? Wasn't it love? Wasn't it loyalty? Didn't those tearful post-game interviews mean something deeper than just professional athlete media obligations? But if we slow this entire conversation down, if we consciously take away all the Twitter noise and hot take culture and actually examine what's happening here with clear eyes, there's something else entirely going on beneath the surface emotions. Let's stick exclusively to the cold, hard facts for a moment. Chris Bassitt just finished his 3-year, $63 million contract with Toronto. He's 36 years old, about to turn 37. He's a free agent. Period. Full stop. There's no moral clause written into baseball contracts. There's no contractual emotional debt that players owe to fan bases or organizations. There's a market, and players have every right to explore it. And when you look at the current free agent pitching market right now, things get really interesting. Framber Valdez just came off the board with a massive 5-year, $125 million contract with the Detroit Tigers. Baltimore lost its top rotation target. And when a competitive team with playoff aspirations loses Plan A in free agency, it immediately speeds up Plan B with urgency. That's where Chris Bassitt enters the equation for the Orioles. Not as a flashy headline star who's going to sell jerseys and make SportsCenter highlights, but as something that baseball executives absolutely love and will pay premium money for. Predictability and reliability. Look at his track record. 4 consecutive straight seasons with at least 170 innings pitched. 4 years in a row. In 2023, he threw 200 innings. That number today in modern baseball is almost science fiction with how pitchers are managed with pitch counts and innings limits. Most teams can barely find 2 genuinely reliable starting pitchers who stay healthy. Bassitt has been that guy consistently for years. Now think about this from the perspective of devastated Blue Jays fans. This was the guy who carried the team through ugly, grinding games that nobody wanted to pitch. The guy who took on the toughest opposing lineups without complaint. The guy who ate innings in brutal August heat when arms are tired and no starter wants the ball. And perhaps most importantly from an emotional standpoint, the guy who didn't disappear or make excuses in October when the pressure was suffocating. Because people conveniently forget this crucial detail. Bassitt missed the ALDS playoff series because of a legitimate back injury. Fair enough, injuries happen in baseball. But he came back for the World Series. And he didn't come back complaining about his reduced role or demanding to start games. He came back and pitched out of the bullpen in whatever capacity the team needed. 7 World Series games. 8 2/3 innings pitched. 1 earned run allowed. That's exactly the kind of selfless thing a true veteran professional does when he genuinely understands the magnitude of the moment, when he doesn't put his personal statistics or ego above what the team needs to win a championship. So when this rumor suddenly pops up connecting Bassitt to the Orioles, the question for Blue Jays fans isn't simply can he leave for a rival. The much harder question is, are the Blue Jays front office actually ready and willing to let this specific kind of player walk out the door without a fight? And this is where the entire conversation gets genuinely uncomfortable, because maybe, just maybe, Toronto isn't thinking about 2026 and beyond the same way that emotionally invested fans are thinking about it. Losing the World Series hurts in ways that statistics can't measure. But it also clinically exposes organizational limits. It shows very clearly where your roster construction holds up under championship pressure and where it simply doesn't anymore. And sometimes the absolute hardest decision for a front office isn't identifying and moving pieces that don't work. It's strategically letting go of pieces that do work in order to adjust the entire competitive picture and roster construction for the future. Now flip the perspective completely and look at this from Chris Bassitt's personal point of view. Let's be adults here having an honest conversation. He's 36 years old with significant mileage on his arm. The next contract he signs could very realistically be the last truly meaningful contract of his entire professional career. Are you making that decision based on an emotional post-game speech you gave 3 months ago, or are you making it based on cold analysis of real competitive context and your best chance to win another ring before you retire? Baltimore today offers something very clear and tangible. A young team that's genuinely competitive right now. An organization with urgent, immediate need for veteran innings. And significantly less suffocating media pressure and fan expectations compared to the Toronto market. And there's even more to consider. In the current Orioles starting rotation, only one single pitcher surpassed 170 innings last season. Dean Kramer. One guy. That's not a minor detail. That's a screaming organizational siren. Bassitt steps into that rotation as an immediate veteran solution. No promises needed. No marketing campaign required. Just a clearly defined role where he's desperately needed. Now go back to the perspective of the heartbroken Blue Jays fan, because this emotional part genuinely matters in sports. The feeling isn't just about losing a starting pitcher to free agency. It's about losing organizational identity. Chris Bassitt became a living symbol of consistency, professionalism, and being the reliable guy who shows up every fifth day no matter what. And when that symbol now threatens to wear a direct division rival's jersey and pitch against you 19 times a season, it starts to feel deeply personal rather than just business. But let me challenge you for a second with some uncomfortable truth. If the situation were completely reversed, if the Blue Jays front office had decided proactively not to re-sign Bassitt and he passively ended up signing with Baltimore as a result, the dominant narrative would be cold front office decision, just business as usual, natural end of a player's cycle with the organization. When it's the player who actively chooses to leave, suddenly the narrative transforms into betrayal and lack of loyalty. And that fundamental difference says far more about the inherent fan-team relationship dynamics than it does about the athlete making a career decision. Technically speaking, and just talking pure baseball evaluation, Chris Bassitt absolutely still has clear remaining value. Analyst Travis Sorchik called him genuinely undervalued in the current market. And that assessment tracks when you examine his skill set. Deep pitch arsenal with a curveball that's shown improving movement. The rare ability to survive and thrive without relying on pure velocity. His baseball age is actually better and more sustainable than most casual observers think. But the clock is ticking loudly. Spring training is literally here right now. Position players are reporting to facilities. And Bassitt still hasn't signed with anyone. That's a significant sign in itself. The free agent market is waiting and watching. Teams are testing financial limits. Veteran players are being systematically pushed into making faster decisions than they'd prefer. So the question that's genuinely left hanging for Blue Jays fans isn't simple, and there's absolutely no comfortable answer that makes everyone happy. Do you want the team to hold on desperately to symbols of the past and emotional connections? Or do you want the front office to think coldly and analytically about the next competitive window? Do you prefer known stability even if it's declining, or roster flexibility to change something bigger about the team's construction and identity? Because if Chris Bassitt leaves Toronto and signs with Baltimore, it won't be because of any lack of love for his former teammates or the city. It'll be because of too much cold calculation about competitive advantage and career longevity. And maybe the absolute hardest thing for fans to accept is that modern professional baseball doesn't ask for emotional permission before moving on to the next chapter. Now I desperately want to hear from you, especially Toronto Blue Jays fans. If Chris Bassitt signs with the Baltimore Orioles, are you calling it the ultimate betrayal? Or are you accepting it as just part of the business of baseball? There's no right answer here, and I genuinely want to know where you stand. Write it down in the comments below because this conversation doesn't end with a contract signature. It only truly starts when the uniform changes and he's standing on the mound at Rogers Center wearing orange and black. If this breakdown gave you a new perspective on the situation, smash that like button right now. Drop your honest, unfiltered thoughts in the comments. And subscribe with notifications turned on because free agency is moving fast and you need to be here when this story develops. This is the reality of modern baseball, folks, and it hurts sometimes.